Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
Movie that came out a couple weeks ago. We both saw this movie, and I personally liked it more the second time I watched it. I had mixed feelings about it the first time I watched it. I'll get into it in a little bit, but overall, I think that it is a solid addition to the like Fox universe movies, and I do think it's a good segue between that and the MCU.
Yeah, I think it did do a good job of marrying the Fox universe into the MCU like multiverse, so that there isn't like kind of an awkward like, oh, were they going to acknowledge the Fox universe at all? I kind of thought there was a chance that they would have like one scene and then it was like, oop, we're done. But most of the scenes take place in the Fox universe, especially like towards the end. The climax is in that universe, and the conflict of the movie is saving that universe. So when I guess Paradox is he kind of laid out his plan, and his plan was kind of what I thought the movie was going to be, where they were just going to pluck Deadpool out and just like end his universe. But I'm glad that wasn't the case, because that would kind of go against, after like rewatching 1 and 2 before this, kind of go against like the character of Deadpool that had been built up to that point. So I think that the way they did that was really solid. I also have like, I think I still have mixed feelings on this movie, but I would watch it again. It is doing well commercially, which is to be expected with a Deadpool and Wolverine. That's about 650 million worldwide right now. It's very possible it does $1 billion. Might be a little bit below that by the time it's done, but all time that puts it in terms of like our ratings currently at 7 all time, and it's still going. I think it has a legitimate chance to probably, I don't know if it can make a run at Passion of the Christ, but if there was any movie that could, it'd be this one. It's finally dethroned that, and currently it's sitting at 85 all time in terms of like gross. So top 100 grossing film of all time already, while it is still there. So success on that part. I think it was marketed well. I think it was good to have the title that they did, separating it kind of from the first 2 movies, as well as Wolverine in the title is gonna make some money.
Yeah.
The movie itself is not what necessarily I expected, but at the same time, it was kind of hard to expect anything going into this movie. It's too long, in my opinion. And I don't know what exactly you cut out. I think you can cut out a lot of the like Deadpool and Wolverine stuff, or you like in terms of like they're like just fighting. I feel like they fought for like a solid 20 minutes of the runtime.
Yeah.
It's just like Deadpool and Wolverine fighting, which is like, it's dope, but like, I don't know. I got kind of like, okay, I get it. I think overall it's a movie that I don't know if I'll watch again. I think that's a big thing with these MCU movies. I haven't really watched like the Avengers movies again. I haven't watched a lot of these movies for a second run through, and that doesn't necessarily like fair to the content, because like you're saying, it is probably better and just more cohesive the second time around. There's just so many movies to watch, and with something like this, that it really is, most of the fun was the cameos and stuff. I do wonder like if I would have the motivation now, knowing all of the cameos and knowing how the movie plays out, to like sit through a movie of this length.
Yeah. And it does feel longer than it is. I definitely thought it was like 2.5 hour movie, but it is only like 2 hours, like a little bit over 2 hours. You can still feel the runtime, and they even make a point of making jokes about that in the movie, which again is like one of the things where it's like you're constantly making jokes about how the people are tired of the multiverse, but then the next scene you're like, here's another multiverse person. And like it is like self-aware, but at the same time it's like feeding into the same thing that it's being self-aware about. and like just being unrelentless about it and not being and like being totally I don't know the word for it, but yeah, you get what I'm going
I think
at.
if I was to give like, an idea of how maybe they could tighten it up a little bit, maybe just kind of, I don't know, if you can cut, it would have to be reworked. Just cut all of like the Fox universe and the like, just cutting that stuff and making it centric to like the Void, because I think that was where the movie shines, is in the Void.
Yeah,
And then when they go outside of the Void, it's kind of when they finally get outside the Void, I'm like, okay, finally it's like over. But then, it, you know, there's a whole like
they got to destroy the
additional fight
MacGuffin.
scene, set pieces, and
Yeah,
there's the classic like, oh, you have to destroy this thing, but it's gonna kill you. But like, we kind of knew it wasn't gonna kill Deadpool.
yeah.
There was a chance it killed Wolverine, but they would just plop
And what are
another
we gonna do?
Wolverine from a
Watch
different universe.
Wolverine die for like a fourth time?
Yeah, really. I think they kind of made the ending could have been a little less messy in terms of things just kind of being all over the place. I think they wanted that big like Deadpool multiverse like fight scene, but I don't know. It comes off like unbelievable in a sense, because like,
Yeah,
why are all these Deadpool so like easily defeated
yeah.
by this Deadpool? Like, what makes him so different? I was like trying to justify that in my brain while watching. I was like, oh, maybe this is just like Deadpool Prime and he's just better than all the other Deadpool. And like, there was a lot less quippiness from the other Deadpools than you'd like. Like, they have such like a pack mentality, which, like, I don't know. It just feels like Deadpool wouldn't like join a Deadpool corps, like, just because he's like multiversal. I don't know.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get into some spoilers because if you haven't watched this movie, go ahead and watch it. If you not interested in watching it, that's fine too. You could probably skip it if you
if you
doesn't add
watch
a
like
lot
the
of
trailer,
context to the MCU.
yeah, if you watch the trailer and like, oh, I hate this, you're gonna hate it. Like,
Yeah,
I won't lie to you. But if it's a fun watch, like,
yeah,
I think the Rotten Tomato score is pretty dead on. It's like 79%. Like, yeah, like I'd say 75% of people will enjoy watching this movie. It's funny most of the time. The action is really, really solid, and there's some really cool shots, and there's more art to it than first meets the eye. I So like, if you're at all interested, it's definitely worth a watch. But if you don't think you're interested, it's not gonna like surprise you.
yeah. I think one of my biggest problems with this movie is that they spent more time and care and love with the characters and the references to the Marvel universe and less so on actually building a story that makes sense. Like the TVA just keeps adding exposition onto it. It's like I thought we had all of the exposition that we needed after the Loki finale. I thought, okay, we have an understanding of what the TVA is after the Loki finale. And like I kind of get like how that works. Finally, after watching the entirety of the Loki TV series, I finally understand how the TVA works. And then in this, they're like, oh, but then there's these things called anchor beings. But also there's this device that you can just plug into a timeline and then just evaporate it. Like after the anchor being is dead. And then like now the TVA just looks like a street. Now it just looks like New York. Like they're just like in like boroughs or something. Like they're like, oh, whose section of the city is this? And they're like, oh, it's Paradoxes. So it's like the TVA. I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense because the TVA is changed after Loki. But I just felt like there was just so much that like I was like, why have I never heard about anchor beings before?
Yeah, and I think this is like some of the just like Marvel problems of just like disconnection from like, and that's why I think that plot leak at least has some truth to it, because it definitely feels like they're setting up this anchor being thing for some other reason, because they could have wrote Wolverine into this movie. He could have just found Wolverine in the void
Yeah.
and like, oh, I'm gonna get you out of here. Like, there's so many other ways you can get Wolverine other than being like, your universe is dying because Wolverine died,
Yeah.
because he was your anchor being. That's just like trying to get audiences familiar with the term anchor being so that they could use it later, which sounds like they were going to do. But, and I feel like they still have to do in a way, at least to some extent, or else this whole thing feels so weird.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just make this the last mention of the multiverse. I guess you can, but how is Deadpool going to show up ever? I guess he could just do that. He has like the little device now or something, and he just goes to different universes whenever he wants.
Yeah. But another thing that I wasn't really a big fan of was the music. So some of the music choices were fine, but I thought that like I for one did not like the intro sequence. I did not like the NSYNC bye 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 intro. I was like, I was just sitting there, just like, do they feel like they have to do a dancing intro because of Guardians of the Galaxy? Do they like what was going on here? And then as like it goes on, there's the scene of them fighting in the car, and that was fine. They could have used the Grease song in that, but they could have used it so much better. Like they should have like actually took the time, planned out a fight scene, and actually like timed up the like fighting to the songs more. I feel like that would have made the movie so much better. And most of it just left me with watching a lot of the fight scenes and wishing that it didn't have any music in it, because I feel like it would be a lot better that way.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that's probably what James Gunn has done differently than a lot of other directors will do. A lot of stuff is just like, okay, how could we fit this song and edit it in, versus James Gunn's approach of having like a list of songs he would want to use, and he would film 4 songs. Like, he would film scenes with the song in mind. And these, other than the intro, where obviously like that song Bye 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 was in mind while making that, I don't know if any of the others really were.
Yeah.
Because like, even when Deadpool makes references to like the songs, like it could just be dubbed over after they got the license for whatever song that they are about to play. So it does definitely feel like that all that stuff kind of came in post, and it does show a little bit now that you're mentioning it, like with a lot of those sequences. The songs in general, I didn't mind, and there was a few like I do like a lot of the songs that they used, but did it necessarily like add to the scene?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah, I was mostly like Hell's Bells didn't really work for me. I thought the montage sequence of him going through time and looking at the different Wolverines, that was the one piece of music that I thought did work. They played Power of Love, the Back to the Future song, and going through seeing the different versions of Wolverine. That was the piece of music that I think worked the best. And then like the end credit song with the reel of all of the other Fox movies, which
That
like
was cute.
yeah, it was cute, but like at the same time, did this movie really pay respects to them, or did they kind of just shit on them?
A little
It was
bit
a
of
little bit of
both.
both.
Yeah. Like, I mean, just the fact that they asked some of these people back,
Yeah, that's true.
it is something. But I don't know if it like, it's not like a rat like Logan is like paying homage to like that character and like what that character
Yeah,
is. But like, there's never been a sentimental send off for like Elektra. Like, it's so like, I guess, in that sense, the fact that she got to be on screen at all
yeah,
is probably just a W there for
yeah,
Jennifer Gardner. Like, it just straight W. But I get what you're saying. It in a way, they could have made this like a goodbye to the Fox universe. Like, in like the X-Men never got a like the new, especially like the new class of X-Men, that never really got a send off. They kind of just all exist in limbo if they might get recast in the MCU or not.
Yeah.
So maybe that would have been cool, but who knows with just all the changes and stuff going on in Marvel if that would have just like ended up being kind of awkward
Yeah.
5 years into the future. But hey, we got Gambit. That was cool.
Yeah. And that was one thing that I did like was it seemed like all of those cameos were filmed in one place. It seemed like they were all on set at the same time. Even if they weren't, it seemed like they were. And it seemed like they were actually talking in the same room to each other. And Blade didn't have the best lines. It was kind of cheesy, but yeah, Gambit kind of stole the show.
Yeah. I mean, if there's one thing like looking back on, this movie, I'm going to remember Gambit.
Oh yeah.
So, W to Channing Tatum for pulling out. I don't know whose idea the accent was. Obviously, Gambit is like Romanian or something like that, but that accent wasn't anything human. I don't know.
He was essentially just doing his accent from 22 Jump Street, the intro scene of 22 Jump Street, and I was here for it.
Yeah, no, it worked. It worked. And honestly, I kind of want to see him again. So I don't know what that entails or how you do that, but make it happen.
Yeah, I could honestly see him showing up in the next Avengers movie. Like they just get a bunch of X-Men actors back. They're like, "Hey Channing, you want to be here in the background?" And I could totally see it. There was a story today that Channing Tatum posted like a story saying like 10 years ago he thought that Gambit was like a long shot dream and thought that it was never going to happen, and then in that like Ryan Reynolds was the only person that was like still fighting for him to like get his movie made and stuff like that, and in that he was just honored that Ryan Reynolds wrote him into the script.
It is cool that passion exists because it's like that was very Ryan Reynolds for Deadpool. Is he had the passion for the character. He wanted to be the character. He wanted to get a movie made and like have Deadpool become a household name, which it is now.
Yeah.
And I feel like Channing Tatum felt like that about Gambit, and he never got the chance. So it's kind of cool to see Ryan Reynolds like recognize that, and I'm sure they're friends and have talked about this and all that great stuff. So overall, it's an enjoyable movie. I like I said, not sure if I'll watch it again just based on runtime and how superhero movies feel for me. After they, you watch them in the theaters, sometimes it's like, oh, now the excitement's gone from it, but there's a lot of really good stuff in this movie, even if it's kind of bloated and at times a little strange. It's an enjoyable watch for me, for sure.
Yeah. Do you want to hear some early versions of the movie that we didn't get?
Right.
So the original script before the movie was bought by Disney was that Deadpool was going to try to save Christmas. It was going to be a road trip movie of him supposedly, probably with like Negasonic Teenage Warhead and Colossus, but they were going to go to the North Pole, try to save Christmas. It was going to be a very low budget, probably like $5 million, he said, movie. But that was obviously before Disney bought it. And then when Hugh Jackman came on, they originally wanted to film a spoof movie that was called Alpha Cop. And essentially they were going to film this movie. And Ryan Reynolds said that the premise was essentially like 5 people were going to go see this movie on opening weekend. And then like 10 minutes into the movie, like a Deadpool and Wolverine title card shows up on the screen. And then like they're just there to watch a Deadpool and Wolverine movie. But he said that like the reason that like that could never happen is because like it would get down to like a week before the movie, and then somebody would be like, "Oh, by the way, this Alpha Cop movie is just like a Deadpool and Wolverine movie," and then all of that would be for nothing.
Yeah. Also, like they still had to pay. They would have to pay Hugh Jackman and pay for the movie, and then they're like, "Oh, let's just commit suicide on the."
Yeah, don't market it at all. No, we don't want anybody to go even suspecting that this is a Deadpool and Wolverine movie.
It's a fun idea.
I think it could.
I don't think.
I think it could work.
Like that would ever happen.
I think that it could work with the right like IP. I don't know, but What that is, we'll never know.
It would have to be like it'd have to be something like I guess like you could do a secret like Terminator movie where it's like, Alpha Cop or whatever, and then it doesn't have like maybe necessarily like the splash screen, but like just randomly like Terminator shows up.
Yeah.
And then he's like a central character. It's not just a cameo. It's like boom, central character. And actually this is in the Terminator universe, and that's so sick for people that are fans of Terminator.
But yeah, I think that would have certainly been something, but I don't think that would have ever been even considered to be a possibility.
But hey, shout out Ryan Reynolds, shout out Wrexham.
Shout out Dogpool.
Shout out Hugh. Yeah, shout out Dogpool. Shout out Hugh Jackman. Shout out Australia while we're at it. Really, really good year for Australia. Not really, actually, but I hope it gets better for them. Not taking shots. I just really don't know what's going on in Australia, and I feel like it's probably not great.